We are going to have a swearing in of our new board members, not our new board members, of our board members that are beginning another term. And I want to welcome Judge Hundley, who is got a promotion, is now a circuit court judge, and appreciate that he's here. And we'll start off with Mr. Curry. Curry, you're welcome to say a few words if you want before you do your swearing in. And now from District 2, Angie Bates.
officers, all the officers I assume being reinstated. Thank you, Dr. Ray. Thank you.
All the formalities over.
Hit that bottom. There you go.
I will take your or the remarks.
Do you mind doing the invocation?
When did that happen?
Is everybody sent? Ladies, are you all ready?
Sorry?
You all set? Ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Ready to rock and roll?
Ready.
The Madison County Board of Education regular session for December 11th, 2018 is called to order. Ms. Rucker, would you lead us in a prayer?
Our Father, Lord, we just thank you for the day you've given us. Thank you for your word, and Father, help us to be faithful to it tonight and to give us wisdom to make good decisions. And we just ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Before I recommend the approval of the agenda, it's also in the back. I want to remove item 4, other items. So with that edit, I recommend approval of the agenda for December 11, 2018.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for December 11th, 2018. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes.
All right, so we got a few things for the superintendent update. First, we'll update that we have an all-star board member that was recognized as one of 5 board members across the whole state as an all-star board member. And so we were incredibly proud of you, Angie. And I'll leave it open if anybody else wants to heap some praise upon Ms. Bates.
Oh, no, that's okay. Well, I would like to say thank you. It was an incredible opportunity to be nominated, but it was something else to sit there with most of the board that I work with, as well as the superintendent and many other board members. It was a statewide board meeting, and to be able to be part of that unit that works so hard to make sure that we provide public education at an excellent level in Alabama was an honor by itself. And so really I want to thank my fellow board members and the superintendent for being there with me, because they too, this job doesn't get done by itself. It gets done with the help of these other board members, as well as the help of you guys as a community, in order to be able to keep public school functioning at a high level. So thank all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Bates.
Congratulations, Angie.
Thank you.
All right. Also at the AASB board meeting, or at the AASB conference, they were recognized. They had a video contest and recognized 3 winners from throughout the state. And Sparkman finished in 3rd place. And Mr. Curry actually accepted the award on your behalf. And we have some goodies for you. But first, we're going to show everybody the video here.
Whoa.
Here at Sparkman, we achieve excellence through
teamwork,
business partnerships,
creativity,
sportsmanship,
real-life application,
discipline,
school spirit,
individuality,
community service,
quality instruction,
and brain power.
We are Sparkman.
All right, so we'll get Ms. Coggins and Sailor Kazortis here to represent on behalf of all the students on this, and we have a list of goodies and a $500 check gift card awarded to you to use for your supplies there. So give a round of applause for you guys.
next year we're gonna win.
There you go. Oh, come on up in front, board members, we'll get us a picture here. So, there's all kind of goodies in here. This is a gift card for classroom supplies. And we have, this for each of our folks on the team. All right, so congratulations. Congrats.
We want pictures and we want to hold the television since they gave us.
Oh, yeah, we can hide that. We can hide that. All right. That was just like that.
We'll give them some fun. Thank you.
Don't get too comfortable, board members. We're going to get you back down in just a second here. Also, we had Miss Cindy Stanley was awarded the Educator of the Year from Governor Ivey, and you can see her award there. And I was planning on making it down, and we had another appointment come up that we couldn't make it. But she just it does an incredible job of having work opportunities for special needs students. So congratulations to Cindy Stanley. And also, we want to recognize our national board teachers. We have 10 national board teachers that we are adding to our list of 25. So we had a huge increase in that. And I'm going to call out their names. So guys, if you're here, I got a pin that we're going to award you, and we're going to take a group picture. And I know not everybody's here, but so if you are here, just come on up when we call you, and we'll get you another group photo. So I see Amber Osborne Bates from Meridianville Middle School, Mary Gardunia from Sparkman Middle School, Ashley Fitch from Sparkman High School, Kim Foster from Buckhorn Middle School, Micaiah Fuqua from Buckhorn Middle School, Valerie Owen from Riverton Elementary, Amber McMillan from Moores Mill, Allison McKenzie, Madison County Elementary, Amber Moore, Newmarket, and Deanna Spencer, Owens Crossroads. So congrats. Process there, but your check will be coming in the mail for the next 10 years too. So congratulations. I'm gonna slide up and get the pen. Y'all want I'll tell you what, we'll take the picture. Then we'll get the pen. And we think that we had more national board certified teachers than any other system in the state this year.
I know them.
Okay.
You guys can stay here the rest of the morning. All right, so piggybacking off of that is our first administrative or informational item. National Board folks, y'all can stick around for this one if you want to. It's about you, just for the first one. And I should have got Dr. Curry up here with us, but the magic behind all of these folks getting in is the support mechanism of Dr. Curry. So amen, that's right. And so Dr. Curry, I asked her to kind of, we were planning on pulling together some information for you. Mr. Curry actually kind of requests this, just kind of get an idea of how we support those folks trying to achieve National Board certification in our system. And it just happened to occur right after we announced the new one. So it's kind of a National Board night. So Dr. Curry, the floor is yours.
Yes, National Board night. Well, I am so pleased to be here to be able to talk to you about a little bit of some of the work that I do with our system. This is very, very important to me. I think it's very, very beneficial to our system to have National Board Certified teachers. Tonight I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of what it entails to become Nationally Board Certified, and then talk to you a little bit about support. We're always looking for, we have support, but we're always looking for more support with this process. So we'll start off with, why is National Board Certification important? Why would we need to do that? It's a voluntary process. All of these teachers that you see that came up, it was a voluntary process that they decided to go through in order to become a better educator. We know from research that National Board Certification helps to promote student achievement and learning. Those teachers who are Nationally Board Certified, according to the research that the National Board has done and others have done, can move their students ahead 2 to 3 months in a year in achievement and learning, as opposed to their peers who are not Nationally Board Certified. The research also shows that even a teacher who goes through the process but may not become Nationally Board Certified, still, just by them going through the process, their students can show 1 to 2 months gain in a year, as opposed to the peers who haven't been through that process. It is very difficult to get National Board Certification because it is a very rigorous kind of activity. Only about 50% of those teachers who go through the process actually get their certification on their first attempt. So it is a very rigorous process. It provides also job-embedded professional development. When I went through the process, I said it was the best professional development I had ever done for myself. I'm really excited about that too, because that goes along with our PLC process, where we're trying to embed professional development into that process for our teachers as they learn and grow. National Board Certification also concentrates or puts the reform efforts, and those are our efforts to make sure that all of our students are learning at high levels right in the classroom, where probably it belongs. Instead of coming from out here, it's a process that develops the teacher and helps improve student learning right in the classroom, right there with the teacher and with the students, and that's where the real work happens anyway. It requires an intense analysis and self-reflection. We would all do better if we had time, I believe, to actually reflect on what we do in our work, in our personal life, in our spiritual life, but it's very, very hard to find that time. Through the process, you are required, the teacher's required to take that time, and each component, 3 components, have a section where a reflection has to be written and entered and uploaded into their portfolios. It is based on high and rigorous standards. As I said, it's very hard to get that certification the first attempt. It's performance-based. It's actually what teachers and students do in the classroom. It honors that complexity of the teaching and learning situation. It also fosters collaboration. It encourages it. Part of the one of the components has to do with collaboration. Again, that excites me because it's also part of our PLC process, where we're really working on that collaborative effort and our collaborative teams working together to ensure high levels of learning for all of our students. How many National Board Certified teachers do we have? This is data from 2017. The newly certified teachers that hasn't come out now, but it's not included in any numbers yet, so I don't have that for you. But there's about 118,000 teachers in 2017 in our country who are Nationally Board Certified. Did I forget to change it? Sorry. Thank you. And that's just under 3% of all of our teachers. The Alabama ranks number 10 in 2017 of having the 10th highest number of National Board Certified teachers in our country. And in 2016, Alabama was number 15, and now they're number 10. And I think after this new round of teachers is added that we'll have even more. Madison County has 25 National Board Certified teachers already. I think I didn't change that. There you go. National Board Certified teachers already, and then we have our newly certified teachers. I think that number is 11, but we have 10 that will be with our system and will be added to our process there. There are requirements in order to become a National Board Certified teacher. There are just some eligibility requirements: having a baccalaureate degree from an accredited college, at least 3 years of experience, and also have that valid teaching certificate. There is costs, and when I say it's voluntary, the teachers who decide to go on this journey, not only do they do a lot of work and high quality work, but they also have some money that they have to pay to go through the process. The process changed in 2014, and it's just a little bit different than it was several years ago. One thing is the cost and how many components or how many entries. Before 2014, there were 6 entries, and the cost was $2,500 for a teacher to go through the process. Now, I feel like, having worked with both the older process and the new process, I believe that the new process is much more conducive to encouraging our teachers to enter the National Board process. Now there are 4 components. Each component is $475, and then there's a $75 registration fee that has to be paid every year. And I say every year because with the process before 2014, once you entered and turned in or got your money into the National Board, through the National Board process, you only had 1 year. Well, actually, it's less than that. I got my materials in the year that I certified in November, and by April, I had to have all 6 components done and turned in. I like this new process a lot better because the teachers have 3 years to complete the 4 components. Financially, that's a big help because it's not as much money up front if they are not ready to have that $1,900 to be able to pay that bill. And also it gives them more time to work on the work that needs to be done, because it is a lot of work in addition to other responsibilities that teachers have as in the classroom. But all 4 components do have to be finished by the end of 3 years. From the time the candidate registers until at the end of 3 years, all 4 components do have to be completed. So that's 3 years. Although all 4 components, and some of those who got certified and came before you tonight, actually did all 4 components in 1 year. And some did 2 and then 2. And teachers do it different ways, however it fits their family schedules and their own schedules and their monetary responsibilities as well. If a teacher does not certify, a teacher has up to 2 years to retake a component or 2 components, however many they might need to do in order to make that cut score that they need. Again, there is a cost to that. Before 2014, the teachers who certified were certified for 10 years, but now the certification is for 5 years, beginning with this new group of teachers here. They will recertify every 5 years. Now, those who are already, our 25 who are already certified, who were already certified before the new group came in, are grandfathered in, and they will still recertify every 10 years. But anyone new entering the National Board roster will have to recertify every 5 years. This is just some deadlines of when the fees are due and when the completion has to be done. There are 4 components, and some of them are uploaded onto an e-portfolio. One of them is an assessment. It's taken at the assessment center, and there are deadlines for that. Teachers receive their scores once they're completed by December. So those who are in the process now and may complete the process by June will know their scores by December of 2019. This year the scores came out on December the 1st. And so at 12:01 a.m. on December the 1st, my phone starts pinging. You know, you hear the little ping. I was blessed to get to hear from several of those who certified to let me know that indeed they did certify. But sadly, there were a few who did not certify, who missed it only by just a few points, and we're going to certainly support them this school year to make sure that they'll be able to make that certification by next year. There are 25 certificate areas in all, ranging from art, music, middle and early childhood generalist, ELA, math, career tech, and there are 16 disciplines, and the age range is from pre-K to 12th grade. So it gives a lot of teachers an opportunity to find that certificate area that they can certify in. The certificate areas all have different standards. They're based on what are called the 5 core propositions, and also the architecture of accomplished teaching. One of the things that I like about National Board Certification is standards-based. That's really great, but that the components that are turned in are peer-reviewed. In other words, they are scored and looked at by trained teachers, National Board Certified teachers, and other teachers as well, who actually are trained in how to give those scores and be equitable in the process of doing that. These are just a summary of the 4 components that a teacher would have to go through in order to get the certification. Component 1 is a test. It's got 3 open-ended responses and then 45 what we would call multiple choice responses on that. Thus, the number 2, component 2 is differentiation in instruction, where a teacher plans a lesson, gets some work samples, and chooses 2 students to look at their work samples. Again, we try to look at work with our PLC process, so this just all goes together with that. And then decides from analyzing student work the next steps that need to be taken to improve instruction and learning for those students. Component 3 is has a video component to it, where again the teacher plans the lesson, but the video is not about the teacher up teaching the lesson, it's what the students do as a result, what the students can do as a result of that teaching and that framework that the teacher laid before the video was done. And then there's a portfolio component. And then component 4, which was just added this past year, is about effective and reflective practice. It has to do with the teacher knowing their students so well, knowing their data, knowing their previous data and experiences, and what the teacher does and how she collaborates and works with others to ensure that that student learns as much as that student can during that year. Now, the support that we have for our National Board Certified teachers, the state provides a $5,000 stipend each year for those that are National Board Certified. Our newly certified teachers will be receiving their checks soon. The ones that have the 25 that we have that are already certified received their checks a few weeks ago. It's kind of like the icing on the cake. Not only do you go through the process, I said when I went through the process, I started out thinking I was a pretty good teacher. But through the process and getting through the process, when I came in at the end, I kind of knew that I was a pretty good teacher. Only thought so before, but it made me do a lot of analyzing and reflecting, and I think I came out a much better educator at the end of that process. There are some state grants and scholarships that are available. Tammy Brown from Central applied for a state grant, and she received $1,900 in order to accomplish her certification this year. Last year, our system received some funds through a grant, NT3 grant. We didn't get the large grant, but we did get some monies to help support our teachers who are going through the process. The A&M In-Service Center provides mentors, pays mentors in order to have some cohorts on Saturdays. We have a cohort that meets once a month here at the central office, and we have one that meets at Meridianville Middle. And that's a great support. These mentors also do some reading. We have many of our system National Board Certified teachers who also help to read and to look at videos and to encourage our candidates who are going through the process. Our system also provides 2 professional leave days. Mr. Solly is gracious to make sure that happens for us every year so that the teachers can take some time to either work together or work in a group with a mentor in order to finish up those components and make sure that they're of the highest quality before they upload them to be scored and assessed. Now, we also got a local grant from the Schools Foundation this year, $2,500, which I'm just thrilled about. And we were able to take that money and we're going to reimburse them for one component, for them to try one component this school year. We had 12 to apply for that grant, and we had 5 who actually were our top 5 scorers. Kristen Brown, Monica Hickman, Norma Malone, Faith Walker, and Jennifer Sticker. And we also have this wonderful Elizabeth Fleming from the Schools Foundation with us tonight. While I am very, very vested and feel like National Board Certification is very important, I do volunteer my time on the Saturdays, also during other times too, to help and support our National Board candidates because I do believe in it and I think it's so important. But our Schools Foundation, Elizabeth Fleming, is also going to share with us about what the Schools Foundation is trying to do to help support us because they feel it's a very important process also.
Thank you, Dr. Curry. I'm really happy to be here with you guys tonight, and I really more than anything to continue to build on the partnership that we have with our 3 local systems. Truly, since I've been at the Schools Foundation, I can tell you it has grown every single year, and it's because of the hard work that all 3 of our boards put in, and most importantly, our school leaders and our school teachers. So really commend you guys for all of the stretch and the reaches that you do as a system. We are committed to supporting our schools and building on additional funding to bring programs and opportunities for teachers that might not happen and something that our community sort of expects. We are currently working several large grant opportunities to make our initial $2,500 support to each system feel like just a small drop in the bucket. We do think that increasing the number of teachers that go through this process will just be a game changer across all 3 of our systems. And it's also something that has become a priority of all 3 of our systems, which makes my job easier when I'm out raising money in the corporate world when I can say all 3 systems believe in this. I'm just going to end by saying, you know, congratulations to your teachers, congratulations to your team and everybody that works to invest in really the 20,000 students that you guys are serving, and that we are committed to build on that relationship year after year. So thank you.
Thank you.
Questions of
Yeah.
either one of us? Happy to. If you have any questions or anything that you would like to ask or add to, or something you're interested in, we'll do our best to answer any of those questions. I know it's a pretty quick overview, but if you have anything, we would just love to talk more about it.
Dr. Nancy, is the recertification as rigorous as the initial certification?
No, ma'am, and it's much less expensive also. It is rigorous. I don't know what the new recertification is going to look like, but I do know what the other looks like. And while it is a rigorous recertification, it's not quite the rigor or the time nor the number, the amount of work is not quite as much as for the original certification. Would you agree with Mr. Massey just got his recertification recently?
I did my recertification last year, so I got to actually go teach an AP calculus class, and because part of it, you got to film it and write an essay and kind of report it, and a lot of it is the professional development and kind of from when you first got it, kind of where it may have led you. And honestly, I would say that from the point where I got the certification, it changed my trajectory to where I became the math lead teacher, felt confidence in that, and was able to kind of honestly and lead into this seat here. I don't think any of that would have started if I hadn't had that. Now that said, I got a grant from the state. I won one of the grants from the state to fully fund my application, and I had a meeting with Elizabeth, and she's aggressively pursuing some donors to try to further support teachers going through this, because that is a barrier for a lot of teachers. It would have been for me, and, imagine just we've got, and when I went through it, when Dr. Curry mentioned she thought she was a good teacher, and she, then after she knew she was, I thought I was a good teacher, and then when I started going through this, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not even close to what I need to be. I had to go do a lot of studying, and it forces you to work in small groups. It forces you to individualize lessons and assessments and follow-ups, and it was an incredible, rigorous process to get through. But it is exciting, though, that Elizabeth is going through there. But that said, it was not as bad, but it was, honestly, there was more to it than I thought it was, because everybody said, oh, it's recertification, it's not too bad. And I'm like, okay, we'll just knock this out. And it took a little more time than what I thought.
You're scaring the people who just got it.
No, it's nothing like the first time through there. The one thing I did present at the joint legislative session last year in front of the Senate and the House committees on the education budget, and Dr. Richardson asked me to do this, and I think I've shared this before, but I think there needs to be more than $5,000 of incentive, of the effort to go through this. And with that, the $5,000 is great, but it is, if you want to incentivize more of the effects that it has on students, I really think there's no greater investment in that we can make that has such a high yield return on that. My proposal was to have a $20,000 stipend for schools in low performing schools or in high poverty schools, and $10,000 everywhere else. They ended up doing the $10,000 for high need schools, and then $5,000. They kept the $5,000 everywhere else. So they did listen. They invested more in national board certification than in the previous years. It had been pretty much status quo for quite the time before that. So it's exciting that we even have local business now that is that are local nonprofits trying to help get some local donors and business to invest into this. All right. Thank you guys so much. Nathan, do you have any other questions?
No, it's just, I appreciate the information. This is outstanding, and I'm so proud of our teachers getting this national board certification. So.
And I think one of the things to be proud of the 10 folks we called out here, it was from a pretty geographically diverse region from what we had. So that was good to see too. We still have some schools that do not have any national board certified teachers. Obviously, that's going to be one of our goals, is to try to get one. Because once you get one, that domino starts to fall. They recruit others through it, that kind of thing too. All right, Mr. Solly.
I'll bring this party to an end here. Okay, all right. Now down to business. We're going to look at the high school academic guide. It's our kind of our annual look at this. You should have a hard copy there in front of you. Before we do, I do want to reiterate something that Mr. Massey said just a minute ago, and Dr. Curry is just incredibly too humble to let you know just exactly how much time she does spend of her own on not just helping others achieve national board certification, but so many other things that she does. She's if Dr. Curry had a nickel for every page of national board certification documents that have been submitted, she probably could fund our capital plan. I'm thinking it would be pretty close to that, and she would do that, exactly right. So she's fabulous. Our high school guide, academic guide, each year we try to, over the course of the year, we try to look at things that arise and address them each year, try to make this document a little bit better every time. And so in your document, you'll see the things in yellow. Those are change. Anything that is highlighted in yellow is a change. Anything that's highlighted in green is something that we're looking at deleting from the document this year. So kind of what the plan is just talk with you tonight, and tonight you've just received the procedural portion of this document. You've not received all the courses and everything that we'll be offering this year. I'll add those. We just got the new course codes last week, so I'll be adding those over the next few weeks and get that document to you. But really the main thing I want you to do is kind of understand why we're proposing any changes or updates that we're proposing, give you time to talk to your schools or, you know, any of your folks that you want to kind of run this by. January, hopefully we can bring it back for approval. And if there's, you know, between then, if there's anything we need to address, certainly we'll be more than happy to do that. So just real quickly, on page 5, the first change that's mentioned there, it's just adding the word fifth period. It's just clarifying that in how we do our schedule. So looking at that, it's just adding some verbiage to kind of clarify what we're doing. On page 6, this was something that you approved last spring after the document was actually published. So I put it in yellow because it is a change to the actual document from last year, but it was board approved. And this is the exemption policy. And I know at the time that you approved it last year, you wanted to look at data this year, see how's it going, okay? I would say the early returns are good. Our attendance in our 9-12 grades is 26% better than it was at the same time last year. So we looked at the first 80 days of the school year, so we're comparing apples to apples, and our attendance so far is 26% better. We have 26% fewer days absent after the first 80 days of school than we did the previous year. When you kind of put that on a per pupil ratio, right now, per pupil, we have like 3.3 days absent. Last year at this time, it was 4.5 days absent per student. So whether it's the exemption policy, whether it is a focused attention, we placed a lot of emphasis through our schools' continuous improvement plans. So I don't think it's just one thing that is affecting that. But I do think, and from talking with our school administrators and the feedback they're getting from their students, I do think it is one significant thing that has had that type of impact on student attendance. So I don't know, certainly we can stop and talk about this kind of thing by thing, or you can save your questions to the end, however you'd like to do that. So any questions about that, or Jerry?
Chronic absenteeism, or you have statistics on that?
I'm sorry, I don't. I can get that for you. I can, yeah, I can pull that information and get it for you. We're meeting with each principal. We started yesterday, and we're doing that. Again, a lot of the schools have some type of absenteeism goal as a part of their continuous improvement plan. So the schools are pulling that, and we can get that together. So if you knew like how many students compared to last year as of 80 days that were chronically absent last year to this year, maybe something like that would be some data.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's what our report card measures, exactly. Our goal is just to get kids, I mean, obviously we want kids at school more. You know, we don't want them taking a day off frivolously, or, you know, we want them to value coming to school. So, but yes, for our report card purpose, chronic absenteeism is the measure that they use for that. So I'll get that to you.
So the total number of absences, though, were down. In some of our schools, we're seeing a decrease even up to 40% in the reduction of total absences over what we had from now. So, I mean, and you can project the chronic absenteeism there, but it seems like that's going to be a help there. But obviously the daily attendance is, all of a sudden our average daily attendance of our high schools matches that of our elementary schools, which is typically not the case ever before. It's been probably even more dramatic than what we thought it would be.
Some of our schools have asked to, and I'm not exactly sure we include it here. Anytime you add something new and you live with it a year, you kind of figure out, because every school has a little different schedule. Some do classes on an A-B schedule, some have 5 periods, some do a 0 period. You know, there's just a little bit of variation to each of our high school schedule, and trying to figure out, okay, how does this work with that class? You know, I guess probably, I would rather, you know, some of the schools have asked, hey, can we put it in here exactly, you know? I'm like, I don't know if we can address every single solitary question that may come up in here without turning this into the Encyclopedia Britannica, you know, I mean, kind of thing. But if we can get the gist of it, and then we'll help ensure that we're consistent among our own schools. But if there are things that y'all are aware of that have come up that you think need to be addressed in this, certainly be more than happy to do that. On page 8, I've added who we have memorandums of understanding with for our dual enrollment program. Those are the colleges and community colleges and universities that are approved for our students to get dual enrollment credit from at this time. On page 10, we did add some verbiage to the early release program that we have. If you recall, last year we eliminated the C program, which was a senior, kind of focused on seniors, because we have this early release program that was, in essence, doing the same thing, in that students can leave school early if they are in a dual enrollment class or if they're in a co-op program. So one of the things in talking to the schools, we felt like, because we really want this to be about if kids are on track to graduate and they've got their credits and everything, are there ways that they can add value to their personal resumes? Are there ways that they can add value to their communities? And so one of the things that was suggested was to look at adding community service projects as an approved way for students to take advantage of the early release program. We kind of arrived at the number of hours as being 100. That sort of mirrors what we do with our co-op program. That's why we chose that number. But tried to think of some way that it would have to be enough of an investment that it would be worth the time away from campus, basically. So, questions about that? Moving on to also on page 10,
Tim, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Williams.
And who approves the community service project? I mean,
it would be approved at the local school level. Yeah.
And what constitutes an approved community service project?
Well, some examples. So like this year, we've been approached by the Boys and Girls Club in your community who want high school students to come assist with that program. And I think it's a very worthwhile thing. I think it's something, you know, if a child is on track to graduate, they've got the courses that they need to, and, you know, they've got their academics in order. I think that could be a wonderful way for them to build their personal resume for college or career, whatever they're doing. I think it'd be a wonderful way for them to support the community. Obviously, whatever they're doing through that project, I think, you know, could add a lot of benefit to the community. That's just one example of something that has come up this year that I think, you know, would be a viable thing. Obviously, in Huntsville, there's a ton of nonprofits that our students currently work at and help on a regular basis. And if this is a way to help them manage their time a little better, I think that's something to consider.
And will they still have to have a point of contact at the Boys and Girls Club or whomever, where they're doing, just like we do with the co-op?
Yeah,
I mean,
there would be somebody having to verify they're putting in the time, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing to meet these requirements, and yeah, so there's a checks and balance in place. They don't get approval to do it, then never, you know, show up again, kind of thing. So
the early release dual enrollment, I know we took out during the hours of
yes.
8 and 6. Are we starting to see a trend where you're starting to see kids go in the evening?
Well, I think that yes, and I think that language probably for the last couple of years it's been kind of antiquated, and it just was one of those things that we never, I don't know, we just didn't change it. I think it's probably a little overdue that it was removed. Because we do have kids doing dual enrollment after hours, we have a lot of students doing it virtually. And I think the intent of letting someone go early is so they can be engaged with that class. So they're going at night. They need to, possibly be doing their schoolwork during the school day. If they're doing it virtually, they need time to do that. So I think it respects the intent of what the early release program is about. Okay. Looking at also on page 10, the exchange program. So this is something every year, usually in the summer, we'll get a few phone calls from agencies and different places that support foreign exchange programs and looking at placing their students in our schools. Typically, the last several years, our schools, we've just kind of collectively said, we're full. I mean, we've got large enough class sizes and stuff. Do we really want to look at adding additional students to our student body that just taking seats away from some of our kids, kind of thing, stuff. So this past year, or I guess a few months ago, the conversation came up in our academic guide. It talked about charging students, and I think a lot of times our schools are put in the uncomfortable position of, okay, do you accept foreign exchange students or not? They kind of have gotten to the point, and I have as well, of every summer having to address this issue. So talking with our principals, we thought, okay, so is there a way we can address this with them that we feel like will be equitable, fair, but yet maybe leave the door open to some foreign exchange students coming into our school district? So we kind of look back at our old policy. How could we amend it? Looking at charging the students a fee and working with Ms. O'Bannon to come up, it'd be about $1,500 for the school year. That's based on a fee that comes from the State Department. I don't know, Ms. O'Bannon, the name of that. The expenditure per pupil report that the State Department sends out every year. So it's, it's something every system kind of gets the similar report on and stuff. So we looked at, okay, if someone wants to do a foreign exchange program with our schools, if they just know up front, this is what the fee is, we can take up to 5 per school. There still would be kind of a caveat in there that, if a school literally did not have room for 5 additional students, that we could deny that. But that's something that the schools asked to consider adding back to that. So, any questions? I do have to verify the visa. That's one of. I'm not taking that visa out of it. I kind of put that there to remind myself. I need to double check and make sure I was told maybe the visa for an exchange student has changed, but I just wanted to double check that. So on page 12, if you'll see, the last sentence of the section on transfers is highlighted in green. The reason that sentence is highlighted is because I'm addressing that whole sentence in the yellow portion underneath it. Okay, so that's why I'm eliminating that sentence. And this is one of those things I'm adding to the guide to kind of give guidance to our schools. This comes from state law. This isn't anyone's opinion on how we handle this, but we do get a, I don't know, I wouldn't say a significant number, but we get enough that it's a regular issue that we have to deal with. Students who transfer into our high schools from non-accredited schools. And there's a specific way in the law that you deal with that, okay? And we've never really had that notated in this guide. And sometimes parents of students who move into our district from non-accredited schools, they have questions about why do we get credit for this class and not this class. We've tried to explain that in this document here in a way that both parents can understand and schools can understand what transfers and what doesn't, and how we can make sure that things do transfer. So if you want to, as you get a chance, you want to read through that again. If you have questions, be more than happy to answer that. The last thing I'm asking schools right now, I've been asking schools for a while for their input on this, and we really just haven't come to a good, I feel like a good consensus yet on it. So certainly you can feel free to weigh in on this as well on transfer grades. Again, this is something that is coming up more and more as we get transfer students from other districts that have different grading scales than we have, okay? So trying to figure out when a student transfers into our district, how to make sure that we're treating them fairly as their grades are transferred into our transcript and into our 5-point GPA scale and stuff. If they're coming in from Madison City, which we've discussed with the board before, where they're on a 6-point scale. We've got some private schools that are on 4.5 scale. You know, how to make those things equitable, okay? So looking at other districts and trying to kind of see how other people are handling this. Two fairly general rule, you know, kind of rule of thumb on this is one, kind of option number one there underneath transfer grades. It's just a method for how to take, and especially for AP, honors classes, those sorts of things, how to blend that into our grading scale. And then option B is you don't do anything. You just take the grade from the other system, wherever it falls, and that's just how it is, you know, if you transfer into Madison County. Looking for a way that's fair to kids, but also doesn't put school personnel in the position of feeling like, you know, they don't want to get into a position of I'm changing something and I'm not sure this is supported, you know, before I change something on a transcript. This is really what this section's all about. And so mainly it's about supporting, trying to be fair, but also trying to give our schools good guidance on how to handle grades coming in from other districts. Right now, my sense is that that may be a little different by school, and that's not a position we want to be in. We want to make sure we're being the same across the board. So
y'all are free to chime in. For example, if somebody from Madison City has an 85 in AP biology, Madison City doesn't scale that numerical grade. They scale the quality points. So instead of 3 quality points with a B, they go +2. They'll get 5 quality points. An 85 for us would be 10 points, which is a 95, and 1 quality point, a 4. So it's kind of, what do you do when you get that kid from Madison City that's got an 85 on their transcript? Do you just keep it in 85? Does the quality? So that's kind of, we're trying to get some guidance so schools aren't necessarily doing it differently everywhere. So, and it's just trying to come up with the language that's most acceptable there. It's hard to have a straight up right. There's a little bit of gray in there, and then we wanted to.
So we're saying we're going to convert it to our system. Is that what we're saying?
Well, one option is that we try to convert it to our grade point average. Another kind of that's one of the things I've listed there is sort of a way how to convert it to ours. The other one is we just accept it. The grade is face value, and wherever it falls in our grading scale, that's where it is, you know.
Yeah, so to that kid, do we give them a 95? If they're in their senior year, they took that last year, do we make it 85, a 95 for us, and 4 quality points? We wouldn't transfer in 5 quality points for that. We don't transfer in quality points from another. We transfer a grade in.
Grades, right.
So that's kind of the...
Okay, so you'd leave it at 85 or go up to 95?
That's kind of what we're at, because other systems don't necessarily scale the number, they just scale the quality points. And that's one of the reasons why we want to scale the number, so the number sticks with the kid, and the quality points reflect the number.
So is the intent to leave the or are we trying to?
No, I'm still in the process of getting our schools to kind of get to a consensus on that. And I left the or in there because I wanted you to know kind of the two philosophies that we're looking at right now, okay? And certainly, you know, feel free to weigh in on that if you have a strong opinion one way or the other. We'll certainly take that into consideration as well. I will, again, I'll have the courses added. That's the main, that's the bulk of what's not there. There, you know, where our courses this year will be, there won't be any drastic changes, with the exception possibly of mathematics. And those are all driven by the State Department. We'll be adopting a new course of study next year for math. So there could be some new math courses. We won't know that till March for sure. So I'll need to get this document approved. So when I bring it back, I'll bring back courses that I know that are approved for next year. And then if anything changes, we'll update you in March once we know more from the State Board. So, okay? Yeah. Tardies, I don't think are being handled in that section. Yeah, that's, each school sort of handles that a different way. Some, I think, handle it, of our high schools anyway, handle it through a good standing policy that they have. If students have X number of tardies, they lose some privileges within their school. But they may handle it 5 different ways. But I don't think there's a standardized way. Ms. Stovall may be able to address that better.
Well, there's not really a standardized way, and that's kind of one of the things that we're, you know, in having the conversations with. That's part of the conversations that we had with plaintiff attorneys, honestly, in our desegregation cases, maybe trying to come up with a way of handling these consistently. We have some that they'll do conferences and things like that. It really hadn't blown up on the radar as far as like somebody's handling it in an egregious way or anything like that. It's not even really a state recognized code, like they don't. Right. So it's just kind of a thing that's sort of there.
I was just thinking, I mean, I have no idea, but if you consistently were tardy and you came in at the last of a class, you would still not be absent, but you wouldn't have gotten the class. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, so you're saying it does like 5 tardies from school equal an absence with that. And we used to have some schools that did that, but it doesn't.
Well, if they check into class, and maybe some of y'all can help me out here, I don't know, if they check into class after a certain time, it changes from a tardy to an absent, even if, yeah, maybe even if they, I think there's sort of a time there that it changes over, so. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, as Kerry makes his way up, I'll take this time to thank Kerry, and you're presenting tonight, right? You know this, right? Okay. As Kerry's making his way up to the podium, Kerry, yep. To thank Kerry and Joe and Dan and their teams for helping make the improvements to our boardroom. We did this in-house from the floor and kind of the setup, and behind the scenes is the exact same, but it's this room is used every day by our folks, and the poor carpet that was in here for a few decades had seen its best days a while back. So thanks to your team.
You're welcome. We love it too. Easy to take care of. It looks better. Y'all look better sitting in front of it, so it's nice.
Thanks, Kerry.
Yeah.
Jeez. Kerry's going to give us an update on some of our construction and where we are on timelines on some of our projects. We had a lot going on and working through the building commission and different things, and wanted to update you on those, on what we got.
Yes, sir. We sent you this out last week. Mr. Massey sent it to you. And this spreadsheet, basically, I'm going to just talk through it in order. That's not formatting well there, but you have it on your computer.
You talking about the table?
Yes.
Aurora, if you could open up the other document in that folder, the PDF, it didn't convert well to, if you have the Google folder there. If not, Mark will bring you outline. So the other document there needs, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Is that one better for you, Kerry?
Fantastic. Yes, sir, that's what I'm working off of. So first item, New Market. Of course, we bid that project back in October, and we're aware of it. It's at $2.48 million. And it's in good process right now. They've done some site work, some concrete, some sidewalks, that kind of thing. So it's going very well. There'll be some major work taking place there in late spring when we get ready to take down and actually start that corridor. The second project, which is also at New Market, of course, we know about the roof. The roof's about 95% complete. We've got a little bit of flat roofs left to do on that, or repair. It's going great, and they're just about finished with it. They just got to find a couple pretty days of weather in a row when it gets up above 40, 45 that we can finish it out. And then, so that's kind of where we were on all that area that you're aware of. This week we bid, or a week before last, we bid Buckhorn High School's roof project, and that was the gymnasium and the connecting corridor. And that thing is, like I said, for several years. So that's nice. And that project actually came in a little bit under budget, which was really nice. So, and I'll go over that as we go into the approval process in a minute. Then Central School also came in at $5.9 million. We bid it last week, budgeted $6 million, of course. That also includes the opportunity to use $500,000 from CNP funds to pay for the equipment and the installation of the equipment.
So you're saying that that one right now is $600,000 under what we budgeted, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay. That's out of the BRAC fund.
100.
That's, yeah, 100,000.
5.9.
5.9, but you're able to use $500,000 from CNP funds, correct?
That's correct.
So, okay, all right.
But you plan to use those all?
Yeah, on the capital plan that we had, we noted.
You did break it out like that? Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
So, but since that's a separate issue of funds, but the BRAC money will pay for the remainder of that project. So we fall down to the next project, Sparkman Middle School. We actually have a pre-bid tomorrow on that project, and it will bid in the middle of January. $1.8 million budget. It's coming along fine. It's been a little bit slower than we wanted to in the design process, but it's where we are. We'll still have it completed and finished out prior to school starting August 1st, and that's our goal anyway. So we're doing pretty good on that project. That's doing a lot of safety improvements for that front entrance, and we're changing the car rider and bus rider lines, and so the kids will enter and exit campus a little bit quicker, easier, and safer. Our next project, Sparkman Elementary School, or the Sparkman campus. There's a half a dozen roofs down there. That building's made up of about half a dozen buildings. New Hope. What'd I say?
You said Sparkman
Elementary. We don't have a Sparkman Elementary.
Okay, New Hope Elementary. Let me read my own. Yeah, so New Hope Elementary. Don't listen to what I say. Just look at what's up there. New Hope Elementary, we have a $2.5 million roof. We delayed that bid a little bit to February. Doesn't hurt us. You know, we had talked about trying to bid it either in December or January. Weather's not going to let us start the work really well until March or April, and it'll all be finished out before school starts, except for a little bit of trim work. But with the tornadoes that went through Jacksonville, Florida, and all the work they had going on in Montgomery and stuff, it just about sucked all the contractors out of North Alabama. So this ought to give us a better price coming in and bidding it here the 1st of February. And so we're banking on that price to be a little bit cheaper than our budget since we've waited a couple of months. We fall down to project number 2, the Sparkman High School, $22 million. It's in 2 parts, 2 different architects and engineers sections. There's the track and field section, which we're planning to bid it in March, the 1st of March, and it's in full design right now. Matter of fact, they're sending the first full set of drawings to the State Building Commission Friday. So there's a lot of work to be out there too, because the bleachers were donated. Everything out there was donated back in '99 and put together. So we're trying to correct a lot of the donated equipment and the way it sets. And it's going to be a good project, and it'll give us all the field events at Sparkman High School that we need, and also, of course, the artificial track and then the competition track and the artificial turf field. So that will bid in March, and then in April, Sparkman High School, the Performing Arts, and the crosswalk. And we had to go back in when all the board members met with the architect and engineers there. And I probably should explain better. We went in and we enlarged it. When you enlarge it, you make it a little bit fatter, a little bit taller on the back end. and extend it out a little bit. And when you do that, it's a full structural redesign from the ground up. So that put a little delay on it, but the positive is we're going to get exactly what we want. It's going to be serviced great. And the good news is we're still finishing it out the following summer, summer of 2020. Whether we started in January or April, it's still going to finish out in summer of 2020. And that will be basically the phase 1 will be the auditorium itself. The phase 2 will start in summer 2020, and it'll start in June 2020, and it'll finish out around fall break or November of 2020, and that's the renovation of the existing band room, dining room, and some of those areas, because we've got to move all those students out of those areas into the new building to renovate those areas. And there's a lot of work on that one. We got to look at the way we're moving the children across the street and where we're moving around the construction site, and we're going to give them some hard concrete paths 8 feet wide to control them and to maintain where they're moving. And we've got some great ideas how we're going to move the kids and the students and also even some of the teachers and stuff. So it's going to be a great job, and it'll bid out in April, and we'll start immediately. It'll start in May. You should probably know that after we bid every project, it takes about 1 full month now to get a project started. Yes, sir.
And not to interrupt.
No, that's.
And this kind of goes for all the projects. I mean, I'm looking at Central's dining kitchen, Sparkman Middle, New Market. I guess it's already going to start. But at what point do you think that you're going to have the final plans for Sparkman? And when you do that, is it possible for all of these projects to have a community, some sort of community engagement, so parents understand the discomfort that they're going to have when these projects begin, and how it's going to impact their day-to-day lives to drop off kids, pick up kids, you know, all those things that are going to happen. So the parents have a better idea. I'm not saying you're going to hit every parent, but I mean, there's going to be enough people there that it will proliferate out.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. When it bids in April, I think that's a great time to come out and present the plans when it's approved, when we bid it, and to show it to the community. And what we're going to do is we're going to show them because what will happen is construction will start that May, and that summer is going to be a pretty tough summer. And that's when we'll put in all the temporary measures to move the kids, and it'll also show them how we're going to move them, where they're going to drop off, where the buses move. It'll show everything we're doing for the next year of construction, and then also the way it'll be when construction is finished.
So you can do the same thing for Central if Central wanted to have a community meeting to kind of talk about what the project's going to be, how it's going to change, what it's going to look like. You could do the same thing for them as well in January.
Yeah, we did it for Central already.
Did you already do it for Central? Okay.
You may have missed that meeting, Miss Stowe. I was on their billboard marquee on that one for a PTO meeting. We had the drawings and things up, and we can certainly have another one, though. That was a fun meeting.
Okay.
Everybody was so excited about their dining area that we'll be bidding on tonight.
I just think parents need to understand the discomfort that they're going to encounter with some of these larger projects so they can prepare adequately enough for them.
I agree more. We also went to a New Market school because they're going to be impacted. The students, the corridor is in the very center of the campus. It connects the 4 buildings together, and we're about to take that corridor out in about the March time frame. So it'll be a little bit inconvenient and painful. Outcome will be great, but yeah, we already did New Market, so we do need to hit Land Fanning, and we'll do Sparkman High School will be the one that will have a very large impact, but we will do so. Yes, sir.
What is the statement, doesn't allow co-op for capital projects? What is it?
We used to be able to, there's a co-op, there's a federal co-ops and also state co-ops where they give bids into the state, and the state recognizes that, and we're going to use artificial turf in this case, that several companies have a co-op bid with the state that says you can buy our system, our entire system, and it's $100 a square foot, or the total cost for a football field is $100,000. And that's basically a co-op, and so you go, I want to buy that field, and you just basically go buy it. It doesn't have to be bid. It didn't have to be anything done to it. What's happened, or what they've changed now, the state says it's a capital project because it's construction and it's over 50, so we're not allowing you just to go and get those contractors. Every artificial turf field just about in the state is put in just in that process. Cater, Austin, whoever, they just get the firm they want to supply the field and they put it in. And that was pretty much it. And it's submitted to the state showing them that we have a design and this is what's being put in, but it wasn't bid. They're saying now that you need to go through the process, getting the bid set up, processing it, bidding it, doing the whole program that you do like you do for capital projects. And that in turn slows you down quite a bit.
So the company can still bid on it collectively,
Correct.
just be multiple bids from different.
That's right. And whenever we've done co-op in the past, at least for us here in Madison County, we always get them down a little bit. We say, that's your bid, but we don't want that bid. We want you to give us a better deal than what you're selling this statewide. We want a better deal. But now they're telling us that we're going to get in there and we're going to bid it, and because it's a capital project. So they recognize these projects over 50 as being a capital project and not so much of a co-op style project.
You said over 50,000?
Yes, sir. That's, capital projects are defined in two formats. One is when it goes over 50, it has to be bid. Well, basically it says any capital improvement is any major improvement to any facility statewide. And we've got different levels. Above 15,000 to 50,000, you have to get 3 quotes. 50 and over, you have to put it out for collective bidding. It has to go out for 3 consecutive weeks in 3 consecutive papers. So we hit Sunday, 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 3 consecutive weeks in a row at Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, for instance. And then it also goes out on the internet on other areas too, but that's the way you have to advertise every project. So when you go through that process, not only do you have to advertise it for 3 weeks, then after 3 weeks is over, then you have to have a pre-bid meeting. Then you need to give them another week or 2 to bid it. And then after they bid it, give us a couple of days, bring it to y'all for approval or not approval. And once it's approved, it takes another month for the contract to get created and signed by the state and sent back, and they won't allow you to do any work until you have your pre-construction meeting with the State Department. So when you look at all that time frame, you're thinking, when does it take 6 months to do a project? Right there's 10 weeks of it, just to get that done, just to do the process. And so it's slow. In the past, you could actually submit your plans to the state. The same day you submitted the plans, you could actually have a pre-bid, and you could actually bid the project, and whatever comments you got back in the past, you kind of integrated them into the project as a change item. They don't allow that anymore. Now they actually make you get the contract back in hand and set up a state meeting with the state inspector before you can start any work at all. So it's a good process. It just takes a lot longer than it used to. And the last 2 items, number 11, the 8 classrooms at New Hope. We show there, they'll be ready to bid in the February timeframe. We can bid them in February, March. Well, we can't really bid them in February and hold that bid that long, but we can hold a bid 4 to 6 weeks if it's in the specifications, and to see how the projects fall in, if they're falling in budget or falling out of budget as we start bidding these projects. But that's why we show it there as an April bid, and the same way with the Lynn Fanning Dining Room, it would be ready to bid in March, but we show it as an April bid to make sure we have the Sparkman High School bid in.
So at this point, Sparkman, New Hope, and Lynn Fanning are going to bid out at the same time. Phase 1 and 2 of Sparkman High School.
Right. Yeah.
You could bid out New Hope and Lynn Fanning before Sparkman, but our issue was making sure Sparkman had the funds they needed for their project. Is that part of the reason why we're?
That's exactly right, because we could bid those projects out in February and March, but we're waiting for the funding and the budget on Sparkman High School.
But we could. You said we got a 4 to 6 week hold that we can hold those bids.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. We just put in the specification. If you get past 4 weeks, sometimes up to 6, past that, a lot of times your prices will start escalating.
Would that give us any more time on the end time? Would that help us out at all if you push up the bid?
Well, the nice thing is, anytime February and March bids are good or fine, because if we get them out and we actually get them approved, we'll actually start work before school gets out on some of the work. And so there's some advantages to being out a little bit earlier, but that's where we are.
What's the rationale for doing the athletic piece before you do the academic piece?
There's 2 reasons. One is that the $22 million phase 1 and 2 won't be ready. The athletic piece, the turf field will be. But by the time we get the turf field out, in this case, like here we identify March, it's about a 3-month to a 4-month project, and we want to make sure we get that out and get it placed, considering nothing goes wrong, prior to the athletic season starting in the fall. So we really need, if we bid it in April, say mid-April here, and then we got mid-May as the final contract date, that would give us about 2.5 months to get it installed before school started.
I had some concern from the soccer folks. Did you get them situated?
We have, and that's some of the stuff we've been working really hard with, building on that campus and the locations and what we're doing, and it's a big spread out project with $22 million. We've decided at this time, the soccer field as it is will stay intact like it is for this spring. The advantage of that is if we have something working with turf, or if turf gets delayed, or if we have real bad weather or some situation come out, we still have a field in play over there. We're not taking both fields out of play at one time.
But they can't play on it, can they? I mean, they can't compete on it, I guess.
Well, technically they could. They don't because of the condition of the field, but.
When you say soccer field, Kerry, which field are you talking about?
Oh, I'm talking about the field that's on the south side of the campus.
The not football.
Yeah, not the stadium field, the soccer field itself.
So we're not touching that field.
Right, yes, sir, that's correct. We're not touching that field until we get this turf field put in place. We want to make sure we always have one good field in place, operable. And so they'll do all their practicing. Sparkman Middle School has a great stadium to play soccer, and that's a great option to take the soccer games to Sparkman Middle School. They've got the ticket booth, they've got the concessions, they've got the bleachers, everything.
Carrie, this may not be a question for you to answer, but I don't recall us ever approving a plan for turf. I remember multiple conversations about it, but I don't remember us voting that turf would be the end result of a plan to move forward for those fields.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that we laid out that we would still come back to that issue and decide the best use for that.
When we, on the language on the capital plan that we were kind of hammering out before that, when it was talking about field improvements, that kind of thing, I mean, that was.
I thought we specifically stated that we hadn't approved yet at that time that would be determined to be turf, that there was still some ongoing discussion that needed to be had before we move forward with turf for that school.
Well, if we want to go a different direction, we need to.
Well, that's why I bring it up, because
I
thought we were looking to do that, as Ms. Stowe said, the academic piece, and then move forward with deciding how to do the sports facilities pending total.
Yeah, and the thing is, we're coinciding, we're moving both of those things at the same time. Obviously, the academic piece has a theater that seats 700 to 800 and 7 to 8, 9 classroom spaces around it. There's a little more going into those plans than the architectural plans for the turf piece. The language that we put was repurpose the competition, football, soccer, track field, and reorient the auxiliary field was the language that we put in. And I knew that, it was kind of, do we want, that's what we're doing with it. And, I knew that everybody wasn't on board with that, and with that bid coming in separate from everything else, I know that there's some that are very much against that. That would be kind of blanket statement to be able to vote against that as just a position to take. But I didn't want to. I thought we were transparent and clear that was the way that we would definitely look at.
My recollection of this, of course I know maybe my recollection is not correct, but is that every project on here had a certain pot of money, and we would try to stay within that. If we couldn't do it, we would cut, because we want to ensure that Sparkman gets what they need. And I don't have a problem with that. But my fear is that what I remember us saying is that we would do what needed to be done at Sparkman, and then if the money was there, that Sparkman could decide what they did with their fields. I personally can never vote for artificial turf because of the equity part of that. And, if they have that much money left and that's what they choose to do, that's what I remember. And I could be totally wrong, but that's what I remember.
Well, we have it, and it's on the capital plan in here, where it's $22 million for the entire, project that's going to happen at Sparkman. And there is an equity piece at Sparkman. They do not have the space that others have. I mean, when others have 4 to 5 full-length 100-yard fields and Sparkman has 1, that is an equity piece, and that was the turf was in response to that, to be able to, because 1 turf field is equal to 2 to 3 fields on the use. And, you know, it's a discussion that we have.
Turf is a perception thing. You know, it's perception. But, you know, that's a local decision if they've got the money. But my fear is that we're going to cut this performing arts, which nobody else has either, you know, or the crosswalk, which my understanding is it's crucial for safety in order to, you know, have, you know, a turf field and track.
Yeah,
We did not
the
vote
plan
on
is to
that, I
not
don't
cut
believe.
any of that. In fact, we still think we're going to come in, you know, we're in good shape to come in within the $22 million budget on that.
Have you ever heard the word bad dirt? It changes.
I inherited some bad dirt that hopefully we can remedy here a little bit later in the board meeting. That, you know, it is going to make sure there's even extra insurance to cover all of these projects. So I think we're pretty much on target and what we budgeted for our plans. We still feel good about where we are. Again, those 2 projects are bidding a month apart. There was never a plan to finish one before the other, to take from one or to do the other.
Well, I think the other thing we discussed was putting all our eggs in one basket, and that, yes, Sparkman does not have as much land. But fixing only 1 field, we still had, my understanding was that they were going to come back and show us how 1 field still accommodates that many teams. I get that you get more play on it before it wears out. That I understand, but you still only have so many hours after school, and now you still only have 1 field.
We got 2, so we've got another
5
field.
soccer teams, correct?
We've got another field, and once we get the other track and field, the game field set, as part of the other bid, and it says performing arts and crosswalk there, but on the capital plan, this was just kind of notes there that we sent out as an update and we're discussing here. But part of it, of the site package, will be to reorient the existing, what is the practice field, what Carrie's calling the soccer field, to be able to be full-length field on that, because right now that one's not quite full-length.
I know that this evening's not altogether what this discussion was supposed to be on the agenda, so I won't belabor the point, but I think we probably did not complete that conversation about the most valuable use of time and space as far as athletics at Sparkman. But again, the agenda item is not Sparkman Fields.
Yeah.
So, but I think we need to readdress some of those issues and clarify some of those points before we move forward.
Yeah, and if the issue's perception, I understand that, and I understand that that's, you know, and we went through this on the language on what would even be on the capital plan, and that is okay. But I mean, that perception can be very much circular on what we have everywhere. I think we need, and like we do everything, we need to focus our funds on programs that support students. And to me, this is about that. And I've 100% clear conscience can say that. And you know what? And while the other thing that's on the athletic plan, what we're not supporting, and what I hope we can soon, is we've got tennis courts at Hazel Green that are condemned, that they can't even practice on there. We've got tennis courts at Madison County that are uprooting and that aren't even safe to walk across. And there's no tennis courts at New Hope on there. I would love to go in, and maybe these will come under budget and we'll get an extra budget bump from the state, and we can do some other things, and we can do those things too. And we're going to have folks to argue with the perception of using school funds to build tennis courts when they could go in the classroom. That will always, that conversation will have to defend that. But if we're not going to support the programs that our students have, we don't need to have them. We need to, we can cancel all these things and run our schools a lot cheaper in doing that. I just think that is just an argument that is against what our mission is in our strategic plan.
I think supporting your student driver with a Camry versus a Lexus is not supporting them. If you need 3 Camrys for 3 people to drive, you don't buy 1 Lexus. So if we have 5 soccer teams and 3 football teams, I still would like to see how that fits on one field.
If we had every high school to play with the same field dimensions and sizes that Sparkman had, we'd have 500 people here. If we're going to do equity of saying, okay, you get an 80-yard field and a 100-yard field, y'all figure it out. I mean,
Well, there's no option for increasing fields, no.
Right.
And I realize that.
So that only leads to this conclusion.
But
I just don't want to do something and still be in the same place we are. So I don't want to move forward with one field and then a year later we're like, great, this one field doesn't support the amount of teams we have, and we probably should have looked at how to get 2 fields. And my understanding is there is the possibility to do 2 fields very well. And I truly want Sparkman to have everything they need. And that's the point, is I want to make sure that this is what they need, not just what looks good on paper.
In the track and field portion of this, does that include the reorientation of the one field, or is that in part 2?
That's in phase 1 of the other contract, to do the reorientation of the other field.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in the second part. It is not in the bid there, because
It's
we
not
didn't
in
want to do both of those things. at the same time.
So that's what gets cut if we run out of money, is that?
All
So you still don't
across
have 2
this
fields, right?
county, we have booster clubs that are paying huge loans for facilities on which their children are playing. And, you know, that's the perception part to
And
me.
Sparkman does too.
We have a, you know, we have a loan here tonight, Hazel Green, asking for money because we don't have the money to give them. So that's just my point. You know, Sparkman has a pot of money like everybody else has a pot of money. And how they spend that once the pot, you know, I want out of that. I don't want to say I voted for artificial turf because I've got, you know, to me, it's just, it's the perception of it. It seems excessive, in my opinion.
But people will say the same thing if we can improve tennis courts. I mean, we've got.
Except we're not doing that right now.
Yeah, we're not, but we did at Buckhorn. We spent district money to resurface the tennis courts at Buckhorn because we could do that for very cheap amount. Because they're in good condition, and you could just repaint it, and the PE classes use them. You know, Sparkman uses the tennis courts at Monrovia. But of the 3 tennis courts I mentioned, 2 are in District 3, and those are going to be expensive projects. And I hope that the rest of the board doesn't say, I'm worried about the perception of building athletic facilities there.
We just have never done it, okay? Communities have built their facilities.
Not always. That is not true. And not at Buckhorn, not when they did the expansion, not the Buckhorn Middle School. We didn't make them go to Riverton and use the baseball facilities there or the softball. We built new softball and baseball fields at Buckhorn.
What they relocated, they built, right? But you had to relocate from one place to another.
We relocated
to provide
Sparkman
it,
High
right?
School. We relocated Sparkman High
I'm
School
not
south.
gonna, I don't want to argue about it.
I know, but
I just won't, you know, it is not an easy thing.
But
And
most schools, you practice on one field and you play on the other, but at Sparkman, they have to practice on their playing field. Is that
There's
true?
no other school that practices on their game field.
And so it completely messes it up.
But you got a JV practicing on it, you got a freshman team, you've got a, you know, a varsity.
You need
So,
more fields, nobody's arguing that.
yeah, but you know, the time of it, that's what Angie's saying too, I think. But anyway.
Anything else? Thanks, Terry.
All right, we'll go to administrative actions. I recommend approval of the financial statements, the payments of bills, and cash reports for October 2018.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. All those in favor of recommending the approval of the financial statement, payments of bills, and cash reports for October 2018, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No.
I recommend approval of the loan request for Hazel Green High School baseball program for equipment, the field, and facility maintenance.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion, I'm not, sorry. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Y'all feel confident that this, the money that they get from, we're assured that they'll get the parking, right?
I'm pretty confident. My only question was, is it exactly 7,000, Karen, that they receive, or is it give or take a few $100s, what they receive in parking fees every year? Because they're paying for this through parking, through football parking.
That's the estimate they came up with based on what they do.
Okay, okay.
Any further discussion?
Have we ever had the occasion where we've approved one of these loans and yet the system really ended up paying it back? Okay, so we're clean on that. Yeah.
In 2008, we had, before the recession, we had excessive monies that were carried over, and at that time, we opted, under Dr. Davis, to pay all the loans at that time. So we paid them all, but it wasn't due to default.
Everybody's got paid off.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Was that equitable?
No, ma'am.
I mean, I don't know anything about that, but.
The loans that we had, the superintendent board approved, since we had monies available, they wanted it to go toward relieving that burden on the local schools, no matter what their balance was. And we've done that one time since I've been here, but it was not due to default.
If some of them had borrowed more, they would have gotten more, but they didn't borrow more, so.
Was that in
We've got those
2006?
figures.
That was in 2008, correct? 'Cause
Right.
I think I got wrapped up in that, yeah.
It was before the,
It was before the turn down.
right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And had we known, we would have never done that.
I broke that down by district, and it wasn't as inequitable as,
It was not too bad per student.
And it wasn't something that, oh, go out and borrow because we're about to pay these off.
Right.
No.
Considering funds that prioritizing needs in our schools. And the superintendent and the board at that time made a decision to go ahead and relieve the local schools of those burdens. But, I don't remember how long they discussed it, but, it's not something to encourage people to go out and borrow more, so the system would have to pay it. That was not.
Because that's probably never going to happen
and I'll say,
again.
in Sparkman, high school had more than others, but if you think of that as two districts combined, the District 4 and 5 together had less loan payoffs than other districts.
Well, and if you broke it down per student, it wasn't,
Yeah.
it wasn't that different.
And it was all existing loans. It wasn't, people didn't go out and get a
Oh,
loan knowing full well that the
no.
board was going to come back
No.
and do anything. It's all existing, yeah.
Do you foresee that ever happening again, Ms. O'Bannon?
Unless we get the state money.
Yeah, I don't.
That's what the board.
I think if we ever had a surplus or something to use, I would love to be able to allocate $150,000 per school to repay, high schools repay off loans for outdoor athletic facilities, and for middle schools, maybe 50 to 75,000. And if they don't have debt, then use that towards improvement of athletic facilities. I think that's the appropriate way to do it, where you do a certain amount per school, rather than, hey, what do you have on the books?
Right.
They'll receive that windfall from the state.
They really,
Well, let us know.
they really do believe that's coming.
I know, I'm
We
not
went
making light
to,
of it.
that there will be some, a significant amount of money being given, on your
And I don't know what the
ADA.
priorities might be with those.
I don't either, but there will, but we have so many priorities, And the classroom has to be first, in my opinion.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor of approving the loan request for Hazel Green High School baseball program for equipment, field, and facilities maintenance, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No.
All right, so we have two different bids. The first one is just the general bids in item C. So the others are the major capital improvement bids. That's not what I'm recommending in this motion, but or this recommendation. So I'll recommend the bids in folder C as attached.
This is a vehicle and lights.
Yes.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the bids as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the bids, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
All right, I recommend the board award the bid for Central School Dining Addition to Bailey Harris Construction Incorporated for $5.9 million.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do I need to say the dollar amount? Can I amend that bid? Because I said I rounded to 5.9. Carrie, how do we need to do this? Cindy, do I just need to?
Amend your recommendation.
Okay, I amend my recommendation for the bid of $5,906,750.
Don't we need a motion to accept the motion to accept amended recommendation?
Any a second?
Second.
All those in favor of accepting the amended recommendation in the amount of $5,906,750, say aye.
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 All right. I recommend the board award the bid for Buckhorn High School roof replacement and repair to Stanford Roofing of Montgomery for $110,194.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the Buckhorn High School Roofing, Standard Roofing of Montgomery, for the cost of $110,194. Any discussion?
That must be a small area. Is that a
Yeah, I was
small
going to ask the
area?
same question.
Yeah, it's very small, but they're taking it all the way down, they're taking the deck in and out. So it's a small area.
It's around the blue gym, or between the gyms, the little corridor between the gyms there. Standard Roofing of Montgomery.
Any further discussion? If no further discussion, all those in favor of accepting the bid for the Buckhorn High School roofing from Standard Roofing of Montgomery, say aye.
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 All right, I recommend approval of the following contracts for services as attached.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the contract of services as attached. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor of approving the following contracts for services, say aye.
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 All right, for personnel items, I'll be making two recommendations. The first one will be for the personnel items in the first addendum. I would like to recommend addendum 2 as a separate recommendation. So I recommend the approval of the following personnel items as attached in the addendum number 1.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of the personnel items and addendum number 1. Any discussion?
I would like to say something after we vote. If that's okay.
Okay, do you have addendum 2? Oh, okay, yeah.
Don't want to give it away before.
All right,
Okay.
go ahead.
If there's no discussion, all those in favor of approving the personnel actions and addendum number 1, say aye.
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 Aye, but with much sadness. I just wanted to, I know he's not here tonight, but Randy Hill was on that on that agenda to return in his resignation. And I don't know how many of y'all know Mr. Hill, but I might choke up just a little bit. He was more than a principal. He was a part of this community, and he would have helped any kid out there, regardless of whether it was his student or somebody walking down the street. And he deserves to just have a heartfelt thank you and congratulations for having the wisdom to move on during a time when he could set his children as his priority in his life. And I thank him for his example and for what he's done for our community.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yes, well put. Mr. Hill was up here the day after he talked to his faculty, and I think he had the biggest smile that I've seen on his face. And I was like, I thought he would be, which he was very nervous leading up to telling his faculty. It was a very hard decision, but I think he has entered this next phase in his life with no regrets, and he's very excited. And it was certainly a job well done, and definitely a servant's heart to those students in that school. And I mean, even recently, of just the recent additions of playground equipment and everything he all pushed for. So he set a standard. That was definitely reflect that. Appreciate that, Angie.
Thanks, Angie.
All right. More? All right, I recommend for Addendum 2, which is the Alan Perkins for Director of Equity and Innovation.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Amendment 2 for Mr. Alan Perkins for the Director of Equity and Innovation. Any discussion?
Well, I don't want to give away my vote, but I could get equally as teared up about Mr. Perkins. He also has been a tremendous pillar in this community, and I'm just glad that he's staying, not going. So, not to give away how I plan to vote or anything.
Any additional discussion? I don't think we need any. All those in favor of approving Mr. Alan Perkins, the recommendation for the approval of Mr. Alan Perkins to be Director of Equity and Innovation, say aye.
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 All right. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Mr. Perkins. All right. I recommend the suspension of 5 work days without pay of the employee as attached.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the recommendation of the suspension of the employee as attached. Any discussion?
Can we discuss?
I don't think we can discuss.
In executive session, we would need to.
Well, I mean, okay.
I don't-
Performance at this pay level would be executive session time.
Yeah.
Really don't.
I'm not asking for discussion. I was wondering, could we discuss?
Yeah, that, and the minute I said that, yeah.
Yes.
All those in favor of accepting the recommendation for the suspension of the employee as attached, say aye.
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 All right, I recommend approval of the following supplemental contracts as submitted.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for recommendation of approval of the following supplemental contracts as attached. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, I recommend the board authorize Mary Stump to negotiate and enter into a resolution, mediation, or settlement agreement in a special education complaint.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and I can't find it here. We have a motion and a second for the board to authorize Mary Stump to negotiate and enter into a resolution, session agreement, mediation agreement, or settlement agreement in a special education complaint regarding a special needs student. Any discussion?
This is so open, and, I mean, is it regarding some specific one, or is it just in general?
The one I emailed you most recently.
We don't ever
about.
identify them on here.
You don't name the student in public.
Well,
It's a
but
FERPA
yeah, but it's
issue.
not even on here. But, okay.
It's never in the written recommendation because that goes in your minutes.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion?
But it's the last complaint I emailed you.
Yeah. No further discussion? All those in favor of approving Ms. Mary Stump to negotiate and enter into a resolution, session agreement, mediation agreement, or settlement agreement in a special education complaint regarding a special needs student, say aye.
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 I recommend approval of an agreement between the Madison County Board of Education and Jeff Benton Development Incorporated for the sale of 58.55 acres on Pine Grove Road as attached.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the recommendation of an approval of an agreement between the Madison County Board of Education and Jeff Benton Development Incorporated for the sale of 58.55 acres on Pine Grove Road as attached. Any discussion?
Has this been completely reviewed? I mean, it just came in today, right?
Yeah, I received a draft from the purchaser's attorney a week or so ago, and I have negotiated this language with them. And they returned it back to me this afternoon right before I forwarded it to you. For example, they had in there approximately 56 acres, but we knew the legal description, so we worked out the wording to add the legal description, and they were approximating the purchase price, so we set that once we knew we had the legal description with the correct acreage. And then we negotiated the language on the environmental piece. They wanted very broad environmental guarantees on your end, and I did not recommend that you do that. So we negotiated down to language that addresses what's happened while you own the property, going from your phase 1 environmental forward.
Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, all those in favor of accepting the recommendation for approval of an agreement between the Madison County Board of Education and Jeff Benton Development Incorporated for the sale of 58.55 acres on Pine Grove Road, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Is that it?
You have
Mark?
I request a special session of the board to meet on January 3rd, first thing in the morning, so that we can approve the principal for intermediate school, the principal position at Walnut Grove Elementary School, and the supervisor of instruction. So we'd like to get those, we can do an early morning meeting, so that we can get those people approved for students return on the 7th.
Well, we're also going to need to do a special session to vote and approve to approve and vote on the superintendent's evaluation, which we took off of the agenda. That has to be done before the 1st of January.
before January 1.
Before January 1. So we'll hold on to that, and we need to come up with a date
Between now and the 1st.
between now and the 1st, and I'm thinking that probably between now and next Thursday. Unless somebody
Well,
wants.
next Thursday is the interviews though, right?
Yeah, we need it running.
We won't
He's
have
talking
positions
about
ready for our part of that until
I'm talking,
Okay.
I'm talking
You're
strictly
saying
a social,
2 meetings.
yeah, 2 meetings, a special session strictly to review, approve, and vote on the superintendent's evaluation, starting at 1 January, and then another special session on the 3rd. So we'll get to yours in just a second, Mark, but I want the board to look at their calendars and figure out a time between tomorrow and the 21st.
About the 17th, Monday.
I'm good Monday.
I'm good Monday.
Any time, just about morning or afternoon.
Sherry, you do.
Sure.
Okay, are we talking about the 17th?
17th, yeah.
Oh, okay, on that day.
It shouldn't be a long meeting, so we could, if we
Monday
could,
mornings don't work for me.
they don't work for you?
Do it at 5:15.
We can do it.
I can do Monday afternoon, yeah,
We-
good.
How about 4:30?
That's perfect.
Would 4:30 be better than 5:15?
4:30 on Monday, the 17th, yes.
Okay, so we're going to do a special session on the 17th of December at 4:30 for the purpose of reviewing and approving the superintendent's evaluation tool.
I'll send y'all a calendar invite.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sending that one out.
Thanks. That actually messed up my calendar for a couple of days.
All I did was move it on my calendar, and it sent it out to everybody.
Okay, so Mark, you're wanting to have a special session on 3 January to approve personnel hiring? Okay.
We'll send that one out too, Matt.
Sir?
We'll send both of them out through calendar invite.
Does anybody have a
All that marks in
preference
the
of
third.
time and of that day? Do we want to do it first thing in the morning? And I realize everybody's,
If we could do it first thing in the morning, that way if we can get the person approved, especially the principal, we can get them started at their school that day. It's a work day on the 3rd of January. So there's a possibility of doing it first thing in the morning.
This is January 2nd, correct?
Third.
oh, January 3rd.
Third.
Maybe the second can finish up interviews for we're trying to get all three of them, the administrative openings we have, the Walker assistant principal, which we're interviewing for tomorrow, for the first round, the Ripon Intermediate School, which we're interviewing for December 20th, and then over the break, finishing up on January 2nd, we're going to finish up the supervisor of instruction positions. We'd like to have recommendations for all three of those positions for you earlier on the Thursday, January 3rd.
Do you plan to celebrate Christmas this year? That's a lot of interviewing twixt now and.
So what time did we say on the
We,
3rd?
we hadn't yet. I didn't, I mean, I'm okay with morning. Angie, are you okay with the morning?
Yes. 9? No.
I was thinking more like 8:30.
Well, I think for you guys that have to.
I'm good with early.
So 8 o'clock?
8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock is work.
Angie?
That's not
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good.
But you've got the longest drive back out to work if you're going to work that day.
But as long as I don't get out there, I can come as early
Okay,
as I need to.
okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do the special session on the 3rd of January 2019 at 8 a.m. And that's for the purpose of personnel actions.
We may have some new teacher hires, you know, sometimes the semester end.
Okay.
Some reservations.
That way those teachers can begin the school day.
Mhm. Is there anything else that anybody on the board wants to add for the good of the board before we move into our executive session?
I've done all my motion for the rest of the year. I'm good.
Mary Louise, anything? Nathan?
I'm fine, thank you.
Sherry? Mr. Mason?
Thank you, guys.
I just want to wish, on behalf of the entire board, myself and the entire board, everybody here at the Madison County Central offices, all our teachers, all our staff, all our faculty, our students and parents, a very happy holiday season. Be safe. Enjoy the time off that you'll be getting here in another, week? And we'll see everybody back here, back in school after the holidays. So we do have an executive session. We have a certification to move into executive session. After our executive session, we will only come back in here to discuss or to vote on anything that's been discussed in the executive session. So you're welcome to stay, but I can't guarantee about what time we will be back. But I will need a motion and a second to move into executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to move into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.